Let me ask you this. When is the last time that you sat in total silence? And I mean total silence. No distractions, no background noise, no scrolling through your phone, just you and your thoughts. If that idea made you squirm and makes you a little uncomfortable, trust me, you're not alone. Most of us fill every second with something, whether that's activities, music, podcast, Netflix, social media, like truly anything, because silence, that seems scary. It forces us to sit with things that we might not be ready to face. But what if I told you that that thing you're avoiding, the stillness, the quiet, it's actually the key to finding the clarity, confidence, peace, meaning, and total body wellness that you're searching for. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Unfiltered Fix. I'm Megan Sharpe, Chief Operating Officer at Zen Regen and Certified Health Coach. If you're new, I'm happy to have you tuning in with us. This is where we have bold, unfiltered conversations about confidence, self-improvement, and leveling up in all areas of life. And sometimes that means getting uncomfortable. One of the things I've learned in my journey through my work at Zen Regen and through my own personal journey and the stories of the incredible people that I get to meet is that confidence is not just about how we look. It's about how we feel, how we show up, and how we carry ourselves in the world. And that brings me to today's guest, Elaine Glass. She's a life path visionary, author, and speaker who helps people break free from the noise and actually hear themselves again. Her book, Get Quiet, is all about reconnecting with yourself and getting out of your own way. She is a true testament of practicing what she preaches. Today, we're going to talk about why so many of us avoid stillness, because let's be real, when you slow down, you start to hear the things you've been trying to drown out. We're going to get into how burnout, stress, and even health issues can be red flags that you're out of alignment with yourself. We're going to talk about the difference between pushing forward and just pushing through, and why one will move you ahead while the other keeps you in a sick, stuck cycle. And you're going to love the story of how a random conversation in a coffee shop changed the entire trajectory of Elaine's life. Because if you stop to think about it, I'm sure we've all had those moments where one small decision ended up being a massive turning point. But most importantly, we're going to dig into how actually getting quiet, listening to what your inner voice is telling you, and of course, how to act on it. Elaine, welcome to the Unfiltered Fix. I cannot wait to dig into this with you.
Thank you so much, Megan, for having me. It's really a thrill to be here, and thank you for that wonderful introduction.
I know that we've tried to connect a few times and our own illness and stuff has got in the way, so I'm really excited. And I really want to start here because we live in a world where being busy is praised and slowing down feels almost wrong and is oftentimes frowned upon. I'm a prime example of having this hustle mindset. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but for a really long time, I kept telling myself that I needed to be constantly busy. And I thought if I slowed down that I would fall behind, or that, many of the plates that I had in the air would drop, or that I'd have to face things that I didn't want to. But as I get older, I realize how important that quiet truly is. Why do you think people are so afraid to get quiet?
It's for all those reasons of just wanting to numb our lives and not really face the truth of our lives. In fact, I really believe that we are addicted to looking away at the truth of our life. And when we get to a certain age, stuff is piled up. Think of it as like a really packed suitcase that you're lugging around, in life with. Nobody wants the weight of a heavy suitcase packed with, unrecognized emotions, unhealed trauma, poor nutrition, everything that builds up within our universe. So we are our own universe. There's a lot going on there. This is a very complex system that we call our body, that we call our energetic body, that we call our life. And so people have been holding on to so much that I believe we don't really even realize we're holding. I believe that this suitcase gets so heavy and it gets to be such a normal experience for us that we don't even know it's so heavy. And so this work is all about how can we unpack that heavy, dense, stuck life of ours that's all crammed into that suitcase and become so light and slow down enough to know what needs to leave and create the space that's needed to really be able to create the best life we can. If that suitcase is so stuffed, so tight, you don't even know where anything is. You can't even feel your way through it. It's the same with creating the life that you want and the vision of your life that you want. People look away at this because it's like, where do I even start?
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming. And when that suitcase gets so heavy, it becomes unbearable to lift at some point. Now, I know you do a lot of coaching with people. What do you tell people who fear slowing down or don't trust what they're going to find in the stillness?
Well, we are living in more. I want to get more. I want to have more. But the more is not going to come in the fast pace. It's impossible. It's like driving your car 100 miles down the road. You're not going to see anything out that window, anything of meaning, anything of beauty. It's in the slowing down. This is slowing down of everything, Megan. This is slowing down of moving your body slowly. You know, instead of running marathons like some of my clients aspire to do, which is great, but now they're actually doing yoga, Pilates, Qigong, slowing the body down, being able to see the view out the window of the car going slowly now, being able to see the beauty of the trees outside the window of your car, being able to see other beautiful things, just slowing down your cadence when you speak. You know, a lot of my clients are corporate women, very successful, but they've taken on this corporate speak. And that speak sounds like as fast as a computer would process information. And I'm saying, no, let's even slow down the processing in which we process information and be more thoughtful and intentional, even with the tone and the words we use. This is a full-on slowing down. And what that brings is a new sense of permission for women to live life completely differently than we have been told by society is the right way. And this is the freedom that you give yourself when you finally give yourself permission to go beyond conventional methods to heal your life, to see your life in a certain way, so that you can be who you were meant to be. We all have a soul's purpose. And really, to make this practical, you are here for a very important reason. You are not by accident. And so how can we slow down and get quiet enough and unpack that suitcase and create the space we need to not hear the ruminating thoughts, the worrying thoughts, but to hear what I say is our soul's voice that has been with us throughout our whole life. It will continue on even after this body is gone. It is the part of us that never dies. It is the all-knowing truth of who you are. And this is the work to getting back to hearing who you truly are, and then taking action on that. And that is the most exciting thing I think we can be doing as human beings. And this is really our lifelong work to do. I think that it's not work. I think we get to do this. I don't think we have to do this. I really frame this as we get to do this as human beings. This is the gift that we get to do.
That's what we're meant to do. But like you said, we've been taught that living this fast-paced life means that we're sacrificing intentionality and authenticity and mindful practices. And it's so true. I know, you work with a lot of high achieving women, and so many people, even those that have achieved a high level of external success, still feel stuck, drained, and, maybe even lost at some time. Why do you think that is?
It's the over-giving, it's the over-nurturing, it's the not being able to receive from the world, but only needing to give. And that really is the sense of fear, the sense of fear of surrendering to life, fear of, if I'm not in control of everything, then life's just going to fall apart. I mean, like I could raise my hand a million times around just that one topic. When you begin to feel stuck. It really is that it's because you've got so many plates in the air. You can't live that way. You can't live that way. Something's got to give. I know in my own life, when I had so many plates in the air, I was in a really, really unhappy marriage. I had 2 small children. I was just trying to hold it all together. That suitcase was stuffed. And in the meantime, I was so numb to really the truth of my life. And that was, I was really married to a narcissist and didn't even know. It had become normal the way he would treat me. It had just become normal. And one day I just broke. Like there was like the last straw. And I said, no, I can't live this way anymore. This is what you say to yourself. I'm no longer willing to live this way anymore. And because I had the big house, the cars, the vacations, I was married to the doctor, like I had the whole external, people looking inside my life would be like, I mean, from the outside in, oh, she's got everything. But I would cry myself to sleep every night by myself in my room, thinking, how did I get here? How many times have we ever said that to ourselves? Like, how did I get here?
And this is where that feeling of being stuck comes in. And I know in your book, you talk about how you experienced burnout. I mean, you were a dental hygienist, you saw over 40,000 patients, and absorbing all of that energy, their fears, while also navigating through your own divorce and a Hashimoto's diagnosis. How did you begin to recognize that mind-body connection in your own life?
Yes, and all of that was happening over the course of 20 years, being a dental hygienist and having my hands hover over people's energy bodies and recognizing what was causing people illness, what was causing people to be healthy, creating health versus disease. And it was really my life class. And what I began to realize was, oh, when I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroid disease, which hits obviously that area in a woman's body, which is all around her voice. Wow, that really hit me hard because I had Louise Hayes's book in my operatory all those years, You Can Heal Your Life, which really helped as a practitioner. She would have what the body was going through, what like Hashimoto's, and then the emotional aspect of why that could be happening in terms of your emotions. So thyroid was all about, in her book, and it really made sense to me, when is it going to be my time? And I think a lot of women who are giving and nurturing, we all need to do one thing, and that is to turn all that nurturing around and give it to ourselves and make it our time.
And I think a lot of people struggle with the fact that they feel like that's selfish when they focus on themselves. And, you know, I always say that it's not selfish, it's necessary. Nobody else is going to give you the life that you want except for you. And you have to create that for yourself at some point in time. You have to have that realization.
I think it's just, it really goes back to something so basic. When you're on an airplane and you give the oxygen to yourself first before anyone else, it really is the perfect metaphor. But it's like going back again, like how can you give yourself permission to actually receive the goodness that this life has for you? It comes down to what I think is kind of a different approach to this, and that is receiving intimacy.
Yes.
Being not only intimate, you can be intimate with another, but can you be intimate with yourself? How vulnerable that is. And the fear that's created around that concept, intimacy with oneself, knowing oneself so well that you stay so true to it, that there's just this immense intimacy around that. It's powerful to think that way about intimacy being within instead of an external feeling.
I completely agree. Talking about success and the external validations, I recently heard that when you strip away the money from the idea of what success really is, it really comes down to what brings you joy. And I think oftentimes when we think about the word success, we associate a dollar value with the meaning of success, but we don't find true meaning or fulfillment in the work that we're doing to get there, whether that is a job or on ourselves ourselves or in a relationship. You know, a lot of people think of success and it's tied to all of those external validations, everything that we have. We need more, 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 like you started off this conversation saying. And I think that there is a huge difference between being happy and feeling joy. Happiness is so fleeting, right? It's based on your circumstances, on things that are going right in that moment. And when things don't go right any longer, we no longer feel that happiness. But joy is something that is so much deeper. It's a state of being. It's what we feel when we're truly aligned with ourselves, when we're living in a way that honors who we truly are at our core. And I think a lot of people are out there chasing happiness, but what they really need to do is cultivate joy. And that's why I'm so grateful to have you here to share this conversation about getting quiet with, because it's so important. And if we never slow down enough to listen, like to truly listen, how do we ever figure out what actually brings us joy?
100%. You know, you sparked a memory for me because a lot of people want to change everything in their life. You know, they get to this point where like, oh, I hate my job. I don't like my partner. You know, everything's a problem. And
go big or go home. They're getting rid of everything. They're starting all over.
which, I mean, I understand to a certain point. But what I have done in my life is I have always trusted the urges of me being called somewhere. I've always trusted that. I remember my like 18th or 19th year of being a hygienist, I was just ready to just like one day just leave and just leave it for good. I was done. It was so monotonous. I had seen and heard enough stories of pain and sorrow, and I was just done. And then I got quiet one night. This was before I even had the concept of getting quiet. I got really still and quiet one night. And I said, how can I go? And this is what you can always ask yourself the very next day you're going into your workplace. You say, I've been called here to do a job. How can I see this differently today? What am I really doing here that I haven't seen? The day I approached my hygiene work, it was a day that I had my patient Jeff come in, and he had just months to live. He had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I said, Jeff, you know, what is it that you have learned through this? And what is a message that you would want to share with me right now? And he said, Elaine, don't wait to do what you really want to do. And in that moment, after thousands and thousands of conversations with patients up to that point, I realized that I was there not just to be cleaning people's teeth, but to creating a safe space for people to express themselves. That facilitates healing in people. And I didn't realize that until that moment. And that was when, you know, I really got present to what I was doing in that room with human beings. I got present to my gifts that I didn't realize I had. And 2 years later, I dropped those instruments and became a life coach, because that's really essentially what I'd been doing all these years. So if you just approach your stuck life, that you may be calling it now, with a new sense of awareness, your whole life can change. You will have a whole new vision for yourself, but we just need to get quiet, ask the universe within ourselves, what am I not seeing?
That's so good. I love that he gave you that message. Don't wait to do what you actually want to do. And had you just up and left, you wouldn't have been able to receive that message. So that's one of those little moments. You were put in that place at that time for a reason. And sometimes when we're in that situation and we feel stuck, it's really hard to change or to flip the switch, to change our mindset. And in your book, you talk about the difference between pushing forward and pushing through. You mentioned how many of us are conditioned to just keep going, even when something isn't working. And that's so true. But pushing through keeps us in this same vicious cycle, whereas pushing forward means that we're actually learning about who we are, what serves us and what doesn't. What does pushing forward look like in practice?
Well, it's sort of like this champion athlete who pushes through pain instead of moving forward to listen to their body. It really is about listening to your body, listening to the insomnia, listening to the PCOS, listening to the infertility, listening to whatever it is, listening to the Hashimoto's, listening instead of pushing through, oh, I'll never get a good night's sleep again, or I'll never have children of my own. I will always have dysregulated hormones. Whatever it is, the pushing through is the not having the awareness of what the pain is. That all is a messenger. Insomnia is a messenger. This is a funny story. I would not have written this book had it not been my wakings at 3 a.m. for 2 years in a row. And it's like, again, you give yourself permission. Instead of me taking sleep medications or melatonin, I tried to resist those 3 a.m. wakings. I tried to push through all of that, but I always went back to going and finding unconventional healing methods. And in this case, it was a simple giving myself permission. Again, it's like we have urges that we just have to stop resisting. The urge for me to wake up at 3 a.m. could have been, okay, well, I didn't get enough protein that day, or my liver, or my kidneys. I mean, and it could have been all that. But what I realized for me was this very unconventional, happening. And that was I would wake up at 3 a.m. because that was the quiet moment in my day to actually write.
Yeah. Your body's forcing you to find that time.
And I finally just said, okay, I'm okay with waking up whenever my body wants to. I am not going to resist this. I'm going to listen to whatever this has to say. And I literally wrote this book in the middle, a lot of it in the middle of the night when I could actually hear my soul's voice. And that's what pushing through versus pushing forward. I was listening in that forward movement, in that state of non-resistance. At 3 a.m. I was actually moving my life forward in a very healthy way and did not know. Whereas I could have been so frustrated, Megan. What's wrong with me? My body's failing me. I need this medication. But instead, no, it's really about women giving themselves permission to be who they really are. And also, then you start going like, well, my partner's in my bed with me. I can't do what I'm being called to do. And then giving yourself permission to have a voice and telling your partner, you know what, we can't sleep together every night because this is happening to me and I'm going to be obedient to the call. This is how you create your unique life. Instead of society saying, no, you have to sleep in the same bed as your partner every night. This shouldn't be the way, no, you should be sleeping all through the night with your partner. Like society tells us these stories. And I'm saying, no, flip all your scripts upside down and really, really think twice about what you're choosing for yourself every day. Is this really true? And that is what, when you say bringing joy, that's what brings joy.
Being true to yourself. Yeah. I love that you have really put all of this into practice. And in your book, you talk about a certain thing, and we'll get into that in a second, that really was a big revelation for you and helped open your mind to this new way of living. I absolutely love the story about the man in the coffee shop who shared the labyrinth with you, and how if you had just rushed out that day, your life might have taken a completely different path. This is something my husband and I talk about all the time. But how often do we miss these life-changing moments because we're so distracted and we're so in this hustle mindset and not present?
Yes. Now, this is something to really write down if you're listening. This is about learning from life in the moment. Such a beautiful concept. Learning from life in the moment. And you're right. I was rushing that day to go get my kids from school. Really rushing. Like your mindset is like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then when they get home, I'm going to feed them this. And then it's going to be, sleep time. And then it's going to be the next day. I was in that mode that day. But something told me, I think it was my soul's voice, literally stop and listen to what this man is saying to you. An old story would have been, oh, he's just trying to get my attention. Here I am, a single woman or whatever. That would have been an old story. But I was like, no, I think there's something here. And again, it's being so present. Your soul has this, it's like an energy rushing through you at that moment. We've all felt like, it feels like excitement, maybe like a sense of euphoria, like this is important. And it really is our soul speaking to us, like screaming, actually, stop. listen to this guy. And that's what the experience felt like to me in that day. And he told me about a retreat center that helped him with his addiction recovery. It ended up being here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where I've lived for over 30 years. And it actually ended up being only a half a mile from my own home. He said, I think it'll be a really good place for you. He didn't know me. He didn't know what my life had been up to that point. Single mom. Well, later that day, I actually went to that retreat center. But it was funny because that retreat center was not my religion. And this is a thing that happens a lot, is that we resist things because we think that that's not for us. And I had to get over that hurdle of entering that retreat center that was of a different faith. I had to go through my own history, my own stories of this is not for you. And so when you get out of your own way, we like that term because this really is about getting out of your own history, out of your own stories, and finding just something new to engage in life with. I went to the back of that retreat center that day and I found a labyrinth, which is a 4,000-year-old ancient consciousness meditative tool. They're found in really a formation in the ground of circular pathways. There's only one way in and one way out. So it's not a maze. It's not there to confuse you, but it really is a metaphor of like the twists and turns that our lives take. Well, that first day, I just remember, Megan, being able to feel again, feeling the wind on my face, feeling hearing the birds chirping, hearing the crunch of the gravel under my feet. And really what was happening in that moment was I was coming alive again after loss, after grief, because all my senses were coming back online again. And not just my external senses, touch and smell and eyesight and hearing, but my internal senses, the senses that for women particularly are so important. Emotions, intuition, feeling ourselves again. It was like a rebirth. Like what I had been missing that whole time was myself. And I think that's what is happening. We're missing ourselves when we get into the chaos of life and the distractions of life. So I started walking, even in my chaotic state. And this is how powerful walking this meditative tool is. And I love it that it's a movement practice in terms of just sitting and meditating. This is actually a meditation of movement practice, which I love. I clearly heard my soul's voice the very first day say, surrender. So even when you think your life is so chaotic, if you just get yourself into a state of being, of quiet, of stillness, it's there. It's like right there, ready to tell you and guide you and love you and give you the exact right actions to take. And that's the miracle of getting quiet, is that now you don't listen to the outside world. This is all about you knowing what's best for you leading you now and trusting that. And then being able to see the magic that will happen in your life when that begins to take place.
I've never had the privilege to walk through a labyrinth, but when I was going through my coaching course, they talked about doing it on paper. They have, you can find these circular patterns and you draw it. And as you go through each part of the pattern, you think about different phases of your life and you're processing it in that way rather than physically being there. And I love that the word that came to your mind is surrender, because when I was doing this practice, as I was going through my course, what came to me was be still. And I think those two things go hand in hand. It's really to listen. There's a reason that we're given intuition. And again, you have to be still to really tap into that gift.
100%. I love that. Be still. It's like the biblical, be still and know. We're not talking about anything that we haven't been talking about for thousands of years. Be still and know. You don't ever have to be lost in life. You are never alone. You are never alone. And as I began to continue walking, because I got really excited when I started to be able to hear inward, and I could hear every time I'd go back to Labyrinth, I'd walk it a couple times a week back in those years, and I'd hear something else, and then I'd see a synchronicity. Like I remember when I wanted to go and be a life coach, I heard in the Labyrinth so clear, I'm ready. Were the two words I heard, be still, so clear, so simple. And that's when those are the messages that are really true. They're very clear, they're very simple, they're very loving, and they're very direct. Well, a couple days later, I was driving my son to a baseball game. Well, wouldn't you know, an old time car pulled up in front of us. And now, spirit, let's just say the universe gets your attention in ways that you would recognize. I love old time cars. The license plate said, "I'm ready." When stuff like that starts to happen, it's exciting. You just want to keep doing this. And that's why, people say, "Oh, isn't it scary to get quiet?" It's a thrill. It's an absolute thrill when you start this work. It really is.
I agree. It's everything.
It is. It's your life. Get Quiet is not a book like a one-time thing. I mean, I have people really writing and saying to me, "I'm rereading and rereading this book," because each chapter takes on a different path associated with the labyrinth. And sometimes you're going to want to focus more on your body and the health of your body, and which is one chapter. Then you're going to be called maybe the next month or year or 3 years down the line. I think I need to get more in control of my environment. That's another chapter. And so this is just a lifelong approach to becoming aware of what to be awakened to in your life. This is really consciousness at its root. And it's really how I discovered, and the people that I've helped discover their purpose in life. And the purpose comes from within them, not from what society is telling you to do. And when it comes from within you, again, that word joy, it is so joyful to wake up every morning. Like, it is so joyful for me to be here talking to you about this, because it came from the depths of within my soul, this work. And people that are listening right now, trust that what is moving you, the urges that move you, trust that they are for a reason, and make this playful. This doesn't have to be serious. Like, I think one of womankind's greatest achievements is play. Make this a playful search and inspire those closest around you to do the same, particularly if you have children.
And they're always watching everything we do. It's important for us to show them that this is acceptable and this is the new norm, or it should be anyways. Elaine, I want to talk about chapter 3 for a second, because you mentioned taking care of our bodies and relishing in it while we have the chance. And I love this. Can you talk about what this means to you?
Oh gosh, taking care of our bodies, that's the first path. And as you know, the energy point, because each chapter is associated to an energy point, the energy point here is our abdomen. This is where all life begins, in the womb for women. Particularly for women who have had children, this will be even more resonant. Taking care of our bodies, which I really see as our temple, it's sacred work. And not just the exterior, but the interior part of this temple. We can paint the outside of the temple, we can plant trees on the outside, we can all make it look pretty from the outside, just like we can with our bodies. But how are you taking care of your body from the inside? Is it clean? Are the floors swept beautifully inside your temple? What are you eating? What are you putting into your body that would make your body clean and healthy? So there's really this exterior and this interior concept of the health of our bodies. And it really is a sacred mission, because especially for women who have gone through all the cycles of life, adolescence, young adult, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, birth, children, my goodness, how much more can our bodies change and distort even? And on a good day, we go, okay, I think I'm looking okay today, I had a client who talked about the distortion of mind. In her younger years, she had acne, and she never really could look at herself in the mirror at all. It was so traumatic for her that she even brought that same story into adulthood, even though she did not have 1 ounce of acne left. When she came to me, she still was putting on her makeup without a mirror. We walked the labyrinth together with this intention of, can we see our beauty differently? Can she see her beauty, her external beauty differently today? Something clicked in her mind that day that was going to give her the permission to do that anyway. When she left me, she wasn't completely 100% convinced. But a week later, she called me and she said, I put my makeup on and looking at myself in a mirror today. And she said, Elaine, I don't even need that much makeup. My skin is really nice. I like the way my skin looks. She had been holding in that suitcase we were talking about before, she'd been holding the story of how really ugly she felt for years in adolescence and hadn't processed those emotions. And these unrecognized emotions that we carry are really what's, I think, the thing that's in our suitcase that weighs the heaviest that we don't know that's actually there. So when the body is holding these unrecognized emotions, that's what's causing us disease. That's what's causing us pain in our bodies. That's what's causing us all the symptoms that we're experiencing, but we don't know why and where it's originating from. I really do believe, after sitting with over 40,000 patients, that of course our bodies can become diseased because of our genetics, because of environmental. Of course, that's all real. But I believe that there is a huge amount of disease caused by these unrecognized emotions that are not healed, that express in ourselves disease. And I know that when I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, because I didn't have a voice in my marriage, because I was saying, when is it going to be my time? That I believe that whatever genetics was there originally, on top of the mental, emotional, unprocessed emotions, that's what caused my disease.
Yeah, so many people don't realize how much emotional energy we hold in our physical bodies. They don't realize what that correlation really is. Being in the cosmetic industry, so many people feel like it's so vain. You know, it's really just about the outward appearance, but that's not true. I do think that looks play a big role, because when you look good, you feel good, right? And that's an empowering thing too. But I've personally seen many people cry during facials or after other treatments that we do at Zen. What's actually happening here is that all of that undealt with stuff in their suitcase is coming out, and they're finally giving themselves, I don't want to say authority, but they're okay with taking care of themselves at this point. You know, they've been carrying it around for so long, and they finally come in because they want to take care of themselves. And they just have this letdown after their treatment or even during their treatment. Why does touch or stillness bring up these deep emotions for us?
Because your nervous system recognizes it's in a safe place to feel. If we're not in a safe place, we are not going to give ourselves permission to feel. There's no way. It's too vulnerable. There's too much fear. So when someone is coming, like yourself, or like when I was in dentistry, with a gentle touch, a gentle tone, a nourishing, healing energy, that's not something that's out in the world all the time for us and available. We're the ones usually giving that. But then to be in a space where someone is truly gentle and caring and healing and able to facilitate our own healing, it's like our nervous system finally begins to relax and regulate, which then allows the fear to subside so that the emotions can bubble up and we can finally feel them. Because up until now, we've just pushed them down and pushed them down. And so massage is such a beautiful way to begin to create safety within your temple. One of the very first things I did actually is I sought out massage to calm myself, to be able to create safety within myself, to even begin to feel my emotions again. There were a lot of tears, which is a beautiful, just energetic release, really. That's all crying is. It's just this built up tension that you just release. You don't have to be afraid of that. You don't have to hold it all in.
You talk about the abdomen being that biggest area of connection, and the gut is so much more than digestion. It's called our second brain for a reason. It's linked to our emotions, mental health, intuition. And I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but when I was reading through chapter 3, I think what really resonated with me was this concept, because during burnout for me a few years ago, I had to have a complete hysterectomy. And that was a really interesting realization. It forced me to really take my health seriously, to really get quiet and to figure out what was going on a bigger level. I realized in that moment how wild it is, how our hormones, our gut, our stress levels, all of our emotions, they're all connected. I think, well, I would like to hear from you. Why do you think people ignore their gut instincts, literally and figuratively?
I don't think it's on purpose a lot of times. I know that there's this, I mentioned about looking away at our lives, and I feel like that's purposeful. But I think that when it comes to listening to our gut instincts, I think that we are just disconnected to how we're feeling. We're taught as children how to think first. Do the math, do the English, do the science, but we're not taught how to feel first. So I just feel like we haven't been taught how to feel our emotions. We don't even know what it feels like to have rage or hatred or anger. When I started really feeling my emotions, I had so much rage inside of me that I didn't even know was there. I didn't want to be a rageful, angry woman. I didn't want that. And so it's like I had to really tune into my gut to find even a glimpse of what that rage felt like and process that and find professionals to help me with anger from my divorce. So many things that we all go through in life, that we carry these emotions. I've helped women actually facilitate their healing so that they can get pregnant again because they're holding so much dense, stuck emotion in that womb area based upon past experience that have these long held emotions are really preventing them from getting pregnant and receiving the embryo into their womb. I mean, this is powerful stuff to become aware of. And these are unconventional, again, methods. Our bodies can heal itself. Our bodies can heal on its own if we just have the right method to do it. I think that holistically, when we approach our health in an unconventional way, instead of going through, now medications, of course, help, and we're grateful for all of them when we really need them. But what about, again, flipping that script for yourself and saying, well, I have infertility issues. I'm going to have to go through IVF or, take these medications. But what I personally would suggest you do first is get into some of those unrecognized emotions that you're holding. Clean and clear all that out first. See where you land and then go to the next step. And this is all about getting quiet and tuning in and knowing to even do that.
And we know that those undealt with emotions present themselves in that physical body in more ways than just infertility. And I want to talk about sometimes, and this, I don't want this to sound harsh, but using sickness as a crutch, because this part of Get Quiet really hit home for me. Nobody really wants to be sick, but sometimes illness becomes an escape. It's a way to avoid the deeper emotional pain when whether we realize it or not. That's actually what's really happening here, I think. How do you help people recognize when they're subconsciously holding on to illness because it feels safer than facing what's actually causing it?
This is a really tough subject. I actually really struggle with because, like you said, nobody is willingly choosing to be sick. Nobody is willingly choosing to have to be in a wheelchair because of pain in their bodies or diabetes in their legs and feet, have numbness. Nobody is choosing to have cancer. I mean, I have seen every disease, most diseases in the course of over 40,000 patients. And I can tell you nobody is wanting to be sick. What I do see is a resistance to one's greatness, a resistance to one's soul's calling, and the fear that that brings when we realize that we're actually here for a pretty big purpose. And when people realize that they can get healthy, and let's say then they do, they go, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I healed the cancer. I healed the infertility. I healed the Hashimoto's, whatever it is that they healed. My hormones are regulated, whatever it is. Now they can actually function like themselves again. They're not stuck in the spiral of, well, I can't do that because I've been sick. I don't have the energy. And they go, this is thrilling. I feel like myself again. And Megan, at the same time, I hear, oh boy, this is scary. I actually now do have the energy to show up in my greatest expression. And so you're really left with facing now your potential, and that can be scary.
I agree. And that illness may not be physical illness. It could be struggling with addiction. I have loved ones dealing with this exact thing right now. One of the biggest ways I try to help them recognize this pattern is by asking a simple, but sometimes a hard-hitting question. And that's, who would you be without this illness? And I think sometimes they just get so wrapped up in the cycle. They're entangled with their struggle, and this idea of not having it feels very unsettling to them. And it's not that they want to be sick or that they want to continue with their struggles. It's that their illness has provided something so familiar for so long, and it's protecting them from their deeper emotional pain. It's an escape from their expectations, or a way for them to receive care and attention that they can't just come out and ask for, because for whatever reason, that's a really hard thing for a lot of people to do.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me. That's a tough place to be in addiction, and addiction, really is just a disconnection to oneself. How can we help people who are in an addictive state? For me, I think it's about re-engaging in life again, re-engaging so that you can connect to yourself again, connect to life again. I know I write in the book about the year that I did 12 things different every year. Every month I did something different. I called it my out of the box challenge. This is great for people who feel like there's an addiction in their way and that they want to reconnect to themselves. Again, it's like I chose one thing every month, and you can write this down too as a listener. What would be one thing you'd want to do that you've never done before? And this could be just simple in your own town. I wrote down the first 2 months of things that I wanted, and then I just let life speak to me. Going back to this, like learning from life, like what would be the next thing I'd want to do? And then what would be the next thing? Well, the very first thing I ever did was the scariest thing. And that was, I went to a Toastmasters meeting. And Toastmasters, as you know, is an organization that helps you public speak, which has always been my greatest fear. As again, using the voice and being seen. But afterwards, I got home and I said, wow, like I did that. And it really brought me confidence. Then the next month, I chose something else. Again, it got me re-engaged in life and brought me even more confidence. And I didn't know what I was going to do the next month and the next month, but for 12 months, I did something different to re-engage in life. And after that year, I became a life coach. I had my own website up. I started taking clients, and I actually fell in love again with, my fiance, Michael, just by re-engaging in life again. It's really a great thing to do.
Absolutely. And I think, if somebody out there is struggling with that, or they have somebody that they love struggling with it, I think the key is to bring awareness to it without judgment. We're not invalidating somebody's pain. It's really about empowering them to explore what healing actually means for them beyond just the physical, because true healing isn't about fixing symptoms. It's about releasing the emotional weight that's been holding them there.
100%. This is about creativity. We're talking about creativity, creating something that you may not be able to see right now for yourself. But if you just follow these paths that I write about and get quiet, unpack that suitcase and create space in your life, you will create something that you could never have imagined for yourself. That I can promise you. Promise you.
Yeah. Something that you talk about also in your book is something that I think every single woman needs to hear, because we are givers by nature, but we struggle to receive. And this is so true. We see it all the time. We hear it all the time. And many women pour into everyone else. And I know you used the oxygen mask as an example, but they often feel guilt or discomfort when it comes to receiving help or love even, or just seeking rest. How can we start rebalancing this energy?
You can't do this alone. You can't be the sole operator. Just like a company cannot have a founder and then no team members. Like, you need a team. Elite athletes have team members around them to help them get to a certain place. Every human being needs that as well. You need team members around you to help you. You cannot do this on your own. That will equal burnout every single time. Don't think you can do that. And then trust comes into play. We're almost conditioned that we can't trust the information that they're giving us. We can't trust that they really are unconditionally bringing this love to us. So it really comes down to we can't receive because we can't trust. We're conditioned not to trust as women. Now that has saved us through the years of, like being the vulnerable species on the planet, so to speak, that we're always needing to have that razor sharp discernment, but then there comes a time where you just go, okay, I need to surrender and trust that I need to build a team around me, and that I actually need to then also be a team member for somebody else. So it goes both ways. If you're just giving in terms of the energy flow, let's just say everything is energy. If the flow of energy is going one way and that's just giving, and you don't have the other pipe open to receiving, the whole system gets stuck.
It only works for a short period of time and then eventually it fails.
Yes. So I would pinpoint, what is it that I can't trust? Not in even others, but what can't I trust within myself? And I would say that would be a great thing to bring to the Labyrinth. You can go to labyrinthlocator.com. A friend of mine called me the other day. She goes, I went on labyrinthlocator.com like you told me to, and there's 5 of them in my neighborhood and I didn't even know. So go to the Labyrinth and set the intention of, why can't I trust myself? What's getting in my way? I love that intention. Thank you for bringing that up, by the way, of why we can't receive.
And if there's someone out there that's feeling exhausted or completely disconnected from themselves, what is one thing that they can start doing today to change that?
Well, it will sound cliche, but get quiet and press the pause button for once in their life. Give yourself permission to press pause, to say no where you would have normally said yes, to not give the advice and just listen to somebody. These are all ways to press pause in your life, to create the space that you need to really be able to listen to really what matters, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yes. Push pause and create the space that you truly need and deserve. That's amazing advice. All right. I know today's conversation wasn't the lightest, but these are the conversations that matter, the ones that make us uncomfortable, that challenge the way we think, and that push us to take a hard look at ourselves. Because real growth doesn't happen in the easy moments. It happens when we're willing to sit in the discomfort, when we ask the hard questions, and when we actually listen to the answers. So if this episode hit home for you, if you caught yourself having those, oh shit, realizations, don't just push it aside. Sit with it. Push pause and sit with it. Let it really sink in. And then ask yourself, what's one small shift that I can make today? Because change doesn't happen overnight, but it does have to start somewhere. Before we wrap up, where can people find you, connect with you, and grab a copy of Get Quiet? Because I know after this conversation, so many listeners are going to want to dive deeper into this work.
Well, you can find the book and everything that I offer at ElaineGlass.com. The book also, if you don't like to read a paperback book, I read it on Audible or on Spotify to you. So that's another option. Yeah, so ElaineGlass.com, everything is there. I hope you enjoy the book.
You heard her, ElaineGlass.com, and her voice is so soothing, and that Audible book is just so delightful. Make sure to connect with her and read her book because it really is one that I enjoyed. And remember, this is what we do here on the Unfiltered Fix. We have the real, raw, and sometimes uncomfortable conversations because I'm not here to sugarcoat things. I'm here to challenge you, to inspire you, and to make you actually level up all areas of your life. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode and share this with somebody who needs to hear it. If you're feeling inspired, please leave a review because I do love to hear what resonates with you guys. All right, that's all for today. I'll catch you next time for another unfiltered, no BS conversation. But until then, keep showing up and staying true to yourself. Have a great day.